Okay.
So welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have Dr. Sherry Gaber here. We've been planning this for a little while. I've been wanting to do this forever. Let me introduce her by sharing my story of how I met Sherry, which was at a barn where I trimmed horses, and I had a little pup named Olympia with me. And Olympia, bless her heart, she passed away. Olympia back then had terrible digestion, and I didn't know Sherry then, and Sherry didn't know any condition about my dog or what had happened or anything. And she just looked at the dog, and she looked at me, and she said, "That dog must have terrible digestion. Can I please adjust her?" And so she did, and within 24 hours, that dog could actually digest things again. It was amazing. Then we saw each other again 3 weeks later, right? And you adjusted her a second time. And you actually adjusted her once more one day before her death. Do you remember that?
I do. And she loved it.
Yes. And then also when I had my injury, you were the one that kept telling me your head is not straight on your neck and you need to get adjusted. And so that is an amazing thing, because it really changed my life from being able to not have to deal with migraines anymore. And that is when my healing journey began, really, after that adjustment. So thank you, Sherry.
Oh, you're welcome.
But you are an animal chiropractor, and you have done this for many years, and I'm going to just hand it to you so that you can explain yourself what you enjoy and what you have done for a long time. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you, Claudia. We have talked about this for years, and I appreciate your inspiration to myself and many others to learn the importance of oils, and especially the first cranial nerve, which is the sense of smell. So we'll talk about that in a second, about the anatomy. So to talk about myself, I was raised in a chiropractic family. My father was a worldwide renowned chiropractor researcher, proving how if you clear the brainstem, high blood pressure comes down immediately. That was a triple-blind study, and it was reported in Hypertension magazine. Then he also did a chronic fatigue study with patients that felt better within 2 months of being aligned compared to the average person. So then he worked with some autistic children, and that was written up in the magazine Autism, where they were able to, some of the kids were able to take off their glasses, they were able to go back to a different type of class where the learning was sped up. So this absolutely showed how clearing the brainstem, 300 trillion nerves, allows the brain to function better. So just imagine the brain, the biggest computer in the world, is able to communicate 100% through the neurology, all the connections coming out of the brain, called the brainstem, through the first vertebra. So I'll talk to you more about sharing some other stories about how this affected some other animals and how the oils also assist. So even as a kid, like 8 years old, I knew that our pets would even benefit from chiropractic. So here I had a parakeet that was, I didn't know she was dying, but I brought her in my hands to my father. I said, "Could you please help?" So here I was, a child, knowing the power of clearing the brainstem. Then I had a golden retriever named Ginger Snap, and I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden she couldn't lap up water, she couldn't eat. I took her to the veterinarian. Nothing could be done except for anti-inflammatories, antibiotics, and I brought her to my dad, and I said, "You have to help." So we took her to the office, and my father figured out how to adjust her, brought her home, and immediately her tongue was able to work. So that was called the hypoglossal nerve. So, and that's one of the last cranial nerves where her tongue was able to be, that neurology was able to be cleared, so she was able to lap up water. So because of this, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I went to 2 years to University of Illinois to be a veterinarian, and I realized going to a veterinarian school how medical it was and how foreign that was compared to how I was raised, my experience. So one day I just called my folks. I said, that's it. I'm going to go to chiropractic school. I want to be an animal chiropractor. So I went to then chiropractic school, Palmer College of Chiropractic. And soon before graduation, you think a lot about, okay, what's next? And I was jogging, went to a park, and I saw this squirrel that was paralyzed. Couldn't get up. It was called flaccid paralysis. So I jogged back 3.5 miles back to get my roommate so we could bring this squirrel to Palmer College of Chiropractic to x-ray it so I could figure out how to adjust it. So the squirrel was laying there the whole time, couldn't move. Well, I was feeling up the spine, felt the atlas really misaligned, and then adjusted the atlas, and within 15 minutes, the squirrel went up the tree. So it shows you the power of the brainstem controlling all the muscles throughout the body. All right, so then after graduation, worked with my dad for 18 years. He was a great mentor, learned a lot, and then people started bringing in their animals, and my passion kicked in again about why I became a chiropractor. So I've been doing animal chiropractic now for 17 years. I taught neurology at one of the animal chiropractic schools owned by Sharon Willoughby, and I love learning about neurology. So here we are now talking about, I think, one of the most exciting nerves of the body, and that's smell. Because the first sense, excuse me, the first cranial nerve is to the nose. And it has, for us, 25,000 nerve endings to all parts of the brain, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Animals have 256,000 nerves from their nose to all parts of the brain.
Wow,
and
what's different?
Isn't that something? So that's why they can smell if there's a bear, a mountain lion, or something fearful 3 miles away. So whatever oil you want to use for an animal, it doesn't take much for them to get the effect. So that's kind of important. While I'll have sometimes the lavender bottle open next to my bed because that's so good for insomnia and relaxation, having good dreams. So it doesn't bother the 3 animals on my bed. All right, so let me talk to you, 3 or 4. Let me talk to you about how the anatomy of this first cranial nerve works. So, in our evolution, our first sense was smell. And basically, and that's because we needed to know if we should feel fearful of something. Now use the word feel fear. So the sense of the nose, what happens is the molecules go up through the nose, and then it goes to all these nerve endings, 25,000 nerve endings, goes to a part of the brain called, as you can see here, the olfactory bulb. And then from there, it goes to, now this is where head injury can come from, affecting the sense of smell. That some of the nerves go to what they call the prefrontal cortex and the temporal and parietal area. So if there's a head trauma and it hits the prefrontal or the temporal parietal, you're affecting some of the nerve endings in that area. Now the good news is there's other nerves that also go to the amygdala and the hippocampus, and then of course a whole bunch of other areas, and then it goes down to the brainstem, which we'll talk about because that's called the primitive brain, which, okay, I'll say it now. The primitive brain, because the primitive brain, and that's where the first vertebra is, controls the heart, your lungs, your digestion, the whole gastrointestinal system, your eyes, and also stereotypical movement. So just from smell, it goes to, we'll first go to the amygdala, and the amygdala stores smell memory. So in other words, you can think of, if you go into a house and someone just cooked bacon, I immediately start thinking about my father making breakfast. That's a pretty good memory. Right. Or you can have the smell of all of a sudden I was in Walgreens and I smelled, this woman came close to me and I looked at her. I said, "Are you wearing Angel?" Because that's one of my favorite perfumes. And all of a sudden we had this immediate great connection and we had a great conversation about shopping for perfumes. Or you can have these different special memories that all of a sudden say, that's not a good smell in my house, like maybe gasoline or something burning. Or if you're in your car, all of a sudden you're smelling something you shouldn't be smelling. So that primitive sense tells us that we could either relax, and that's why lavender, chamomile, orange blossom, some of the other wonderful bergamot, chamomile, clary sage, frankincense is so good for the brain,
Right.
because it can relax the whole body. Then what's really cool, so that's a primitive sense. Then the other nerve endings, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, see,
So these
are basically the general oils for brain, and just in general. And then if you want to get more specific, then there are the parts of the brain that certain oils relate to, but these are good for the brain. And what you just, of course, said, frankincense is one of those that's good for everything.
Perfect. Because here's the other thing about, and we'll talk a little bit about chiropractic, that if you've had a brain injury, which like you did and also I did, I got kicked in the forehead by my horse, that the neurology of the brain, it's called that it's has plasticity, which means that if one area is not working well, another area could actually take over. So when I said that there's an impact into the front part of your head, let's say even a whiplash, or the side of your head, that the other parts of your brain, if you smell some of these great oils, will stimulate the amygdala or the hippocampus or the other parts of the brain that control smell, that help stimulate the other parts of the functions of the body, which I said was like the heart, your lungs, your digestion. So in other words, if you have a whiplash, which chiropractically should get appropriately realigned, because the head and first vertebra can be misaligned, and then it puts a strangulation on the brainstem, so then the brain has no way of connecting to the body to tell it how to heal and how to function right. But if you use these oils, like to waken up and help digestion and help the part of the brainstem or the limbic system that I talked about, the primitive brain, for your GI system, or calming, because when you have had a head injury, the part of the nervous system called parasympathetic, which is all about relaxation, relaxing the heart, allowing the circulation to be as best as possible, your arteries to dilate properly, for the GI system to properly relax and digest well, for your eye muscles to be properly open and properly relaxed so they could do all their functions with the 8 muscles. So like if you use peppermint or some of the other stimulating oils, you're helping the body work better, let's say in being awake and having your eyes open, feeling alert, feeling better digestion. Like whenever, if I'm stressed or if I have eaten the wrong food, I'll use peppermint on my stomach or smell it, and that has made a big difference. So let's go back to the other part of the brain called the hippocampus. The hippocampus sorts memories. Like in other words, if you want to think about an old friend, or if you want to think of a great meal that you'd like to duplicate, or memories of having a good conversation and feeling like you can pull back the words or the people's names. So there's great oils to help stimulate even that part of the brain for your memory to start having great recall. And I think you have some of the other stimulatory, invigorating, like cardamom, juniper, lemongrass, rosemary. So
right.
There are other parts of the brain that you could actually, or if you're going to have a crossword puzzle competition, or if you want to do a crossword, or if you want to have an energized conversation with a group of people, or do a podcast. So in other words, you start smelling some of these oils and your brain will start
Let me just interrupt you for a moment, because not only that, but there are a lot of other oils. So let me just name them: rosemary, peppermint, frankincense, basil, clove, lemon, juniper berry, cedarwood, ginger, grapefruit, lime, bergamot, rose, of course, rose is an amazing one, dill, lavender, lemongrass, and petitgrain. But then also, it's really important. I've noticed that during my brain injury, it's super important that the brain gets the right nutrients. So, for example, Lifelong Vitality Pack that doTERRA offers is amazing for the brain and memory, and it gets the inflammation down. Of course, it has also the fish oil with the essential oils in it, the omega-3 fish oil, and nutrient complex. So that's all in the Lifelong Vitality Pack. And to improve the memory is also clary sage and clove. Now I'll give it back to you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Well, and also after a head injury, there's two parts of the nervous system. It's really important to understand because you want to help prevent future problems.
Yes.
So when you have a head injury, the head whips and the first vertebra is the most movable vertebra of the entire spinal column. So when your head misaligns and the first vertebra also misaligns, you're decreasing, again, that part of the nervous system called parasympathetic. So your heart can be affected. That's why you have more of a tendency to have high blood pressure. The arteries constrict all over the body, including to that brain. Then the parasympathetic nervous system then also is part of called the vagus nerve, and that's where peppermint can really help out. The vagus nerve tells all the tissue from swallowing all the way down to your esophagus, to your stomach, to all parts of your GI organs, except for the adrenal gland, to tell it how to properly relax and function well. So if you have a head injury, whiplash, all that gets affected. That vagus nerve gets tractionized. Therefore, your heart can't work well, your lungs, your GI system, even your spleen, gallbladder, liver. So until you get realigned and get that working, your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight and your anxiety, has more of a tendency to kick in and to be more prominent and dominant. So again, until someone gets realigned by a wonderful chiropractor that understands the brainstem, or like Nuka technique or craniosacral, some of these oils that are the sedative ones, which we talked about, the lavender, chamomile, marjoram, orange blossom, that will help go to those two areas of the brain called the hippocampus and the the thalamus, hypothalamus, and these other parts of the brain that will allow more relaxation. So then the vagus nerve and the GI system and the heart and the relaxation of the arteries can possibly be helped to go closer to normal. But obviously getting to the core of the problem and getting realigned is really important, while these other oils will support the healing process and be where you are in life, to be as more comfortable and having fun in your body.
Yes.
So I hope that makes sense. Oh, and also this one, I'm sorry, one more thing. So this is really important. So if I don't say the word sex in a podcast, I mean, I think that's a really important thing. And that's part of, believe it or not, to feel your sexual self, to feel your vital self, that's all part of the brainstem also, which these oils and a good chiropractic adjustment could help out to feel that aliveness. Okay, so there you go.
Good. So obviously that would be the same for animals and people. What would be the difference, or is there a difference?
I got to tell you, taking care of people for 18 years and now chiropractically taking care of animals for 17 years, I don't see the difference in clearing the brainstem or using the oils on them. Often I see animals, or I'll just talk about animals right now, if they couldn't use their rear legs well because that big nerve tract from the rear legs couldn't talk to the part of the brain to say, I know where my leg is, I could push, that changes immediately. Often it only takes 3 seconds for these nerves to talk to the brain and back down to the muscles for a change. I see better digestion, just like my dog that all of a sudden could use her tongue again better within minutes coming home from the office. I work with an animal communicator. What the animals tell her across the board is the room looks brighter because the 8 muscles around the eyes relax, and all of a sudden more light can come into the brain, and they feel more fun in their bodies.
Right.
So to feel balanced and to feel like there's no more muscle contracture, you can feel more alive. And just without those tight muscles and just that crampy sense, it's all relaxed. So, and then I often use lavender for my animals if they've gone through something, a little anxiety, if the UPS truck has come, I just calm them down real quick.
Right.
So I don't see a difference between using animal chiropractic with people or the oils between the humans, and the anatomy is really the same.
And so what would be a few signs where you would know, an animal needs a chiropractor or an animal needs to go and have some oils? What would you think that the signs are for people? The same thing, I guess.
I would say if anxiety, in other words, if you can't feel relaxed, that's more of the sympathetic part of the nervous system, fight or flight. So if you can't relax well, if sleeping is a problem, or if a dog starts pacing, or all of a sudden they just feel also more anxious, that's a sign. If a dog keeps on biting itself or licking certain parts, that could be pain, arthritic pain, inflammation, or they're just trying to get rid of some anxiety.
Yeah.
Being able to use our head and neck well to turn all directions, that's a sign that it's usually a chiropractic case also. Or if the rear legs start getting weaker, I don't care what the age is. I've taken care of my dog who was 17 years old, and always when she was in alignment, those rear legs kept strong. So, and also for people, if they start, this is a good one, if they start lurching forward, they can't stand up straight against gravity. Dogs, it would be in the middle of their back, a little lower than the middle of the back. That starts getting arched. That means the spine's not handling gravity well. That means they're also out of alignment.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. That's very clear signs where somebody would know my animal needs an adjustment, right? Or I myself need an adjustment. And Andrea was just saying that her daughter was in a car crash, and that she will send her to the chiropractor. Thanks for the reminder.
Right. And the good thing is, the closer you can get to an incident that may have whipped the head a little bit, if you fall in the house or a car accident or even something in the past, but the closer you can get to, or falling off of a horse, the closer you can get to the injury, to getting realigned, your body heals faster. So, and another sign of being out of alignment is poor digestion. We talked about that from the vagus nerve.
Yes, a fantastic oil for that, by the way, is Digest Zen. It works so fast, it is unbelievable.
That is great.
Yeah.
So again, go ahead.
Peppermint too, just yeah.
So again, remember those parts of the brain, the amygdala and the hippocampus, and those other connections in the brain. What we're trying to do with the oils is stimulate that part of the brain, because it does absolutely tell the body how to work better. So if it's digestion or your heart, memory, relaxation, to sleep better, the oils always help, because again, we've got all those nerve endings coming through the nose into the different parts of the brain, out through the brain stem, affecting that limbic part of the brain. That's the part of the work better.
Right. So now let me ask you, Sherry, what would be some oils or some signs, maybe first, for traumatic brain injury that people would be able, because it is Brain Injury Awareness Month, and I want to go a little bit into traumatic brain injury as well, especially because you and we can speak from experience.
Right.
So what would you say some typical symptoms of traumatic brain injury that you can really say this is clear that this is a concussion or head injury?
Well, chamomile, so the oils that can help stimulate those parts of the brain to talk to remember, those parts of the brain, the hippocampus, the amygdala, go down to the brain stem for better digestion, feeling vitality, heart, lungs, digestion, decreasing stress, anxiety, headaches would be chamomile, frankincense, ginger. There's rosemary, lavender, basil. Sinus headache, pinyon pine, hemlock, cedarwood. For kids, orange, lavender, basil. Migraines, often from head traumatic injury. Migraines usually is caused by the vascular system is too constricted. Again, they should be adjusted. But you can smell lavender, lemon balm, combination of peppermint and eucalyptus. You could rub it on your temples or the back of your head, or you can place your hands in hot water, about 110 degrees, and put 5 drops of lavender in there. Now, a cluster headache, you could use I think it's called the black pepper, or capsaicin cream. In other words, something that's what they consider, I believe, a hot oil. So, and what these oils do, it actually stops the brain registering pain. If you have indigestion headaches, coriander and cumin.
Yep. Also cardamom, I believe, right?
Yes.
Because
yes.
cardamom is one of those in acupuncture and Chinese medicine. The digestive system and the lungs, for example, always go together, right? So cardamom is a fantastic one for digestion as well as breathing.
Okay, good. And then let me say one last thing, and that is after a head trauma, and that decreases the parasympathetic nervous system, you're more sympathetic, which you're bringing down that vitality. So you could actually feel anxiety, depression, mood swings, even more menopausal imbalances.
Yes.
So bergamot, frankincense, rosewood, geranium is very helpful.
Yes, and let me just say this. These things have really helped me extremely because somewhere along in my accident experience, my pituitary gland got somewhat injured, or I'm not quite sure, damaged somehow. And these 4 things here have helped me tremendously. Phytoestrogen for the hormonal balance. Mitomax, Mitomax is really fantastic for the energy level, to maintain energy throughout the day. And Claricalm is fantastic for keeping the estrogen progesterone balance. And balance itself is just an amazing grounding oil that also helps the hormone balance. Geranium too, but I didn't put that on there. But yeah.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Now, I'm sorry to say, when I got kicked in my head, my concussion experience, and I didn't know I had a concussion, and the hospital didn't tell me I had a concussion. I found out 2 days later when a veterinarian called me, and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know who you are." So that was my experience of finding out that I had a concussion. So I'm sorry that I didn't know about these products. So thank you for sharing these with everyone. And I intend to get this and still use them. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, so where do you think you would begin in terms of adjusting? Will you begin with the oils? Would you begin with the adjustment or the oils? Does it matter how, if somebody notices they have all these symptoms that we've been talking about, where would you start?
Well, I would do both at once. But since sometimes you have to wait for an appointment,
Yeah.
I would put an order in ASAP. And actually, if you start doing these products ASAP, you're already facilitating the body to start working with itself. So then when you do get realigned and clearing the brainstem 300 trillion nerves and getting your head on straight and allowing all those neural connections to work that much more efficiently, to talk to the body, to tell it how to heal and relax and digest better, it's hand in hand. So I would start doing this ASAP with these products and get realigned then as soon as possible. And then I would continue to support, because, once you even get aligned and the increased blood circulation happens immediately, the vagus nerve starts calming down, the tissue has to heal. Yes. So you're really supporting the tissue and healing with these products.
Yes. One thing that has helped me tremendously, and that's how I got into the oils, is when I started diffusing the oils in a cold diffuser. Mm-hmm. And just, we have several in the house that run almost all the time. I don't do it necessarily at night, but during the day. And it is so, I really noticed, especially because I had this collapsed lung, that I could start breathing deeper again. And that's a fantastic way to go. Now, I do want to say a word of caution about that with cats, right? You want to always give animals a way out of the room when you diffuse oils. For cats, there are some oils that we don't want to necessarily have them ingest or even use on them. Can I just say that in between, Sherry? Because I think of it right now. There are two fantastic books that I use, which are Spoil Your Pet and Essential Oils for Cats and Dogs. This one here is super, super safe. This one here is written by veterinarians. They do use some oils that some people say don't use, but if you use your type of products and they're absolutely pure oils, you can trust these. I have tried these out. The question mark comes when you use some other companies that are not third-party tested. So that's why even companies that seem to be reputable, I don't know exactly how to say that now, anyway, so you want to make sure that they are third-party tested, completely pure, and I really trust Tara, that's why I use them. That's one thing to really pay attention to, the quality of the oils.
Got it, for sure. And because animals have the 256,000 nerve endings in their nose to all parts of the brain, which means that then it affects their whole body. That we're now that we all understand how the brain functions, they're really powerful. So let me say this, that because I'm in Central Coast of California, and I also travel to Santa Fe, New Mexico, take care of animals, that ticks are in both places. I've used these oils and I've made my own tick spray, and I've soaked the dog collar in it, and it has worked magnificently. And also I've made a spray for ticks for our neighbors, so when they go hiking. And I went hiking with a friend of mine. I just made these oils for the dog collar, so I still had the oils on my hands. I went hiking with a friend for about 10 minutes. She had ticks on her, I had none.
Yes, that's amazing.
And I think it was only 4 oils, and I put it in some Everclear alcohol, made it a spray, and also I just put the straight oils in a stainless steel bowl, and soaked the collar in it. Also, just one more thing about lavender. If your dog has a hot spot, or there was a tick bite on one of my dogs that got pretty inflamed, and she kept on licking it, I put lavender on it, and she hasn't touched it since. So it's also important to remember that some of these oils are antiseptic. Yes. So you don't need some of the medication, use an oil.
Yes, exactly. Andrea would like to know if you could share your recipe for the anti-tick.
Okay, let me get it. Hold on. Well, the recipe for the ticks, I use citronella, eucalyptus, lemongrass, basil, and melaleuca. And let's see, she'd have to call me. I could tell her how many drops of each. Or give me 1 second. Hold on. No, I don't have the recipe at hand to tell you how many. Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe it's over here. Hold on. Okay, I got it. Okay, so this is what I used. Okay, all right. So the tick prevention, I used a half a teaspoon of alcohol, 1 drop of cedarwood oil, 3 drops of, let's see, no, 2 drops of citronella. Lemongrass. No, I'm sorry. I used something else. Let's start all over. Combine 20 drops of citronella, 10 drops of eucalyptus, 10 drops of lemongrass, 5 drops of basil, and 5 drops of melaleuca.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Have you tried Terra Shield?
I haven't. Oh, and then you add 1 teaspoon. Let's see. Oh, then you add like plain massage oil as a base, and you fill up a 4-ounce bottle.
So let me tell you that this works fantastic. This is Terra Shield. And basically you can even use it as fly spray for the horses. It works fantastic. You don't have to mix a recipe. It works for ticks, it works for flies, it works for all kinds of bugs.
Okay.
Sometimes I mix in lemongrass if there are mosquitoes, but don't do that if yellow jackets are a problem, because yellow jackets are attracted to lemongrass. But other than that, this is fantastic, a fantastic mix, oil blend.
That's great. I've got a client who has a white Arabian, so and the ticks are just totally attracted to this horse. So I'll share that with her. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. This is fantastic that we can work together like this. I've been really excited to do this with you.
Well, thanks.
So, Sherry, do you want to share anything? You want to open up so that people could ask questions, or I have some questions for you as well.
Okay. All right. Let's go for it.
Andrea, do you have any questions? Anybody, any questions? And I know Andrea is on here. I don't know if anybody might be listening in on the phone. I don't know if I can see that or not. And Andrea, you could just unmute yourself too if you wanted to.
There. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. This worked. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I have just been really enjoying this and taking notes, and I'm very glad you're recording it. What I was wondering is, do you see a change in emotional responses from the animals or even people with chiropractic adjustments?
Oh, 100%. Again, because you're kicking in the parasympathetic nervous system when you get the head and the first vertebra underneath the head and your lower neck straight, that supports the balance of the head and the first vertebra. You're kicking in the parasympathetic nervous system, which tells your arteries to properly dilate, and that increases blood circulation to the brain. You're getting the muscles to relax that are abnormally contracted everywhere. So your neck muscles feel relaxed, your shoulders feel relaxed, you can stand up against gravity better. So with increased blood circulation and all abnormal type muscles relaxed, you're a new person.
Well, when are you coming to New Mexico next?
Oh. Well, the best, I don't do people anymore. So the best person in New Mexico is Dr. Lonnie Pond, and he's in Farmington, New Mexico.
Wow.
Worth the drive. Yeah. And I've driven there myself, taken patients there, I've sent people there. Otherwise, while I lived in Santa Fe, I would fly to Chicago to see my dad to get adjusted. So if you're in Santa Fe, a 3:15-hour drive is nothing.
I was thinking about a horse, actually.
Oh, I come to Santa Fe every 4 to 6 weeks.
Great.
So with the horses, all of a sudden you see more energy coming out of their eyes. You see their faces relax. They lower their head and neck. All of a sudden they'll start yawning, and Claudia knows this. They start chewing and blinking. Their whole spine just balances. That arched area relaxes. Their hips can move. Their shoulders loosen up. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. If you go on my website, you'll see a testimonial that we just put on there, that this one Mustang, after 2 years, all of a sudden went over to the fence where the new gelding was, and she just immediately went into heat and started talking to him. So remember, that goes back to that sex thing that I talked about. All of a sudden that kicks in, and the vitality kicks into the animal and the person. It's really a great experience.
Oh, wow. Are you using the oils while or before or after you do a chiropractic adjustment?
Often I use, if I had rose more available, I would always use rose. I use lavender very often. And also there's, is there something called Release? Is there oil called Release? Or that could be a Bach flower remedy that I use. Anyway, so often it's lavender.
But we do have rose now. It's in a roller bottle, so you can easily put it on your hands.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful oil. And in this Immortelle, rose is in it. Immortelle has in it helichrysum, rose, lavender, myrrh, and Hawaiian sandalwood. And there were studies done that it is especially good for TBI. So that is, my goodness, I put this on my face every day, because it's really a skin product. My horses, when I go out to feed, they just love smelling it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the highest vibrational oil.
Yeah.
It takes thousands of rose leaves to make a drop.
Yes.
So it's, but it's the highest vibrational oil.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Anything else that we want to share, Sherry?
Well, my experience is if your body is working well, your brainstem is clear, and you use these oils, you're just expanding your experience of life. If I can smell rose, it's always like this uplifting experience. I keep peppermint with me everywhere. Even whenever I fly to and fro Santa Fe, sometimes I'll even share my peppermint oil with the flight attendants. So, because they're working so hard, if I see someone tired, I go, here, I think you should smell this. So, go ahead.
Have you ever tried the peppermint beadlets? I have given those out on flights before.
What is it called?
Peppermint beadlets. They're little tiny. It's a third of a drop of peppermint in like a tiny little capsule, like it's a round little thing. It's called a beadlet. And you can take it and bite on it or swallow it. Even kids can take it. And I have those with me all the time.
All right, I'll get some. And just talking about that, and I hope, we've all had aromatherapy in our lives. And all of a sudden, as I was like making this tick spray with the eucalyptus, I started remembering as a kid my parents using Vicks Vapor Rub.
Mm-hmm.
So who hasn't had Vicks Vapor Rub as a kid growing up? So we know the potency of these oils, from childhood. So I'm just grateful that we can go forward using what's there and being better educated. And, even for, cases that instead of being on medication, like frankincense is great for seizures and also getting adjusted. So, from one spectrum, if you just want to feel like invigorated, or if you want to relax, or if you want to just have more mental power, there are these wonderful products that we could utilize.
Yes.
So,
Sherry, I just got a question that a friend of mine sent to me. She has a cat that has a tumor, and we don't know exactly where the tumor sits, but it's somewhere in the brain. And she went blind overnight. She cannot really hear anymore, and she cannot really smell so much anymore. So even food intake is very difficult for her. She's a client of mine as well. And so she is wondering if what you would recommend in terms of alignments, if there might be a chance that this could change, or if a tumor is something completely different. And oils, which we have gone through some of the oils. Frankincense is anti-tumorous, So that's one that we're using, and a couple of others. But what suggestions do you have?
Well, talk about a complicated case. What I would do if that cat was mine, I would absolutely make sure it was in alignment, make sure that there's no pressure on the brainstem. Again, 300 trillion nerves, that if there's a misalignment, that also pulls up into the brain and changes brain chemistry. So I would look at all the different variables to allow this animal to feel as much health as possible. Clearing the brainstem would be one of them. The other thing is I've used CBD oil, and CBD from hemp is totally legal. And CBD oil has been proven to shrink tumors.
Yeah, she's using that as well.
Okay. And I would, even though the cat can't smell, even when that olfactory bulb or any of those nerves are being affected, sometimes even 500,000th of a molecule could still be smelled into the brain. And then sometimes one sense gets stronger while the other senses also get weaker. So I would still use the oils, and then I would see, even maybe feeling is then a bigger sense for her. So I would do more touch. I would make sure she knows where I'm at, make sure she feels safe.
Yes.
So that's what I would do.
So Sherry, can you share your information so that people, Andrea just is saying, do you have any experience using Copaiba? So, I have honestly not been sure enough to tell her to try Copaiba, because I don't know how it affects cats. With the other animals, I'm totally fine, but I am not quite sure. And I couldn't find any research about Copaiba and cats. So that's why I have not yet experimented with it, But that's a good idea. Copaiba is also, very similar to CBD oil, except it doesn't have the part where you could get high from that, but it's very safe as well for humans and other animals. But cats are always a little tricky, so that's why I haven't done that. But Sherry, would you go ahead?
Well, the other thing I'm thinking about is you want to support the cat's immune system, and 70% of our immune system is in our small intestines. So I would make sure I do pre and probiotics, and I don't know, there could be something with also homeopathy. So and there's also
she's working with a homeopath as well.
Okay, good. So the most important thing is I would think that you would want to support the immune system, make it as strong as possible, right. Feed all that good bacteria that's in the small intestines.
Right.
That's being challenged.
Yeah, thank you.
And I would stay away from chicken. Chicken, according to Chinese medicine, is a hot food and can cause inflammation, so I would use anything but chicken.
Okay.
I've changed many dogs' lives just by having like wild salmon being used, and just taking, changing the food source.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Now, Sherry, would you share your information so that people can get a hold of you if they are in California or in Santa Fe, to give you a call and book an appointment with you for adjustments, and also your doTERRA link? Since you're on our team, I would like to, if people listen to this, I'm so grateful for you for doing this webinar. I would love for them to contact you and, get to know more about the oils, and you have so much knowledge. It's really beautiful, and I thank you so much for doing this for us. We've been talking about possibly doing a series, so if people are interested, I would love to hear back what the interest would be. But please go ahead and share your information if you want to.
Oh, sure. It always takes a village, so I'm glad that Claudia and I could do this for everyone. My home number is 805-473-5829, and I want everyone to remember I'm in California. All right, so there's a little time difference. In my cell phone is from when I lived in Santa Fe. It's 505-690-1107, and my email address is Dr. Dr. Sherry, SHERRYG @gmail.com.
And if anybody needs any of these oils we're talking about, they can just go to mydoterra.com/Sherry Gaber. Correct, Sherry? That's your link.
Yep.
Sherry Gaber. So perfect.
Thanks.
Sherry, thank you so much for doing this. I cannot believe that we actually are here and doing it, and I'm really excited that you're even open to doing a series of these. So let's talk more when you are in Santa Fe. Let's meet up next time, and obviously Andrea now has your number. She will give you a call.
Good.
And enjoy your day. Thank you so much. I hope you have not so much rain anymore.
Oh, it'll end sometime tonight, we're hoping. It's been 3 days now. I woke up and I said, do I see Noah's Ark out there yet? So God bless everyone, and I pray that everyone stays safe and warm. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Sherry.